Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. The tape with no end. It arrived inside a battered shoebox, stuffed between dog-eared notebooks and yellowing envelopes. Her uncle had died 2 weeks earlier, a stroke, they said. Instant. Clean. The kind that gives no warning, no mess. But he died alone, in that rusting house, the one that smelled of old books and floor polish. Tara hadn't expected to find anything of value in the will, nor did she care. But her name was on a cardboard box marked personal effects for T. Inside, a letter, unreadable. The ink had bled into the page as if it had tried to flee the paper. A broken wristwatch and that tape. Unmarked, black. No sticker, just cold plastic. She didn't even own a VCR. By the next day, curiosity was louder than reason. She found a pawn shop down on 4th that still sold the machines. $60 cash, no returns. It took 3 tries to get the tape to load. Static, flicker, then her apartment. But wrong. No timestamp, no noise. The tape played in silence. From the corner of the room, the camera angle stared out toward her living room couch, her chipped coffee table, the open kitchen. She was watching herself, but not from the present. Tara looked older on screen, tired, her hair longer, the clothes unfamiliar. She watched the version of herself sit silently for minutes at a time. Occasionally she'd speak, but there was no sound. Then movement. Something crossed behind her, behind that her, a shape, thin and crawling low. She rewound it, played it again. It was fast, too fast. She paused the tape and stood in the middle of her living room, same layout, same angle. But there was no camera. No cracks in the wall, no lens hidden in the vent, and no way to explain how a VHS tape could show footage from months in the future. The next day, she tried again. A different scene. Still her apartment, still her. But now she was crying on the floor, curled around something out of frame. Her hands were shaking, blood on her sleeve. The shape returned, not crawling this time, standing, watching her from the bedroom door. Its face was missing, just smooth skin. She unplugged the machine, broke the tape in half, burned the tape. It melted like plastic does, foul-smelling and thick, but refused to curl or shrink. The black ribbon flared, then straightened again, unburned. She buried it behind the dumpster. She moved the VCR to the curb. But the next night, her TV turned itself on. She didn't own a remote. The tape was playing again. Only now, the Tara on screen turned her head slowly, and this time she looked directly into the camera. Right through it, right at her, and mouthed the words, "Why didn't you listen?" They told me not to watch. Jonah's job was simple. Clear out the dead man's apartment, catalog anything valuable, trash the rest. It wasn't the first time he'd cleaned up after someone died. It wouldn't be the last. But this place, something about it clung to him. Every room smelled like mothballs and vinegar. The walls wept a tacky sort of moisture that smeared when touched. He found the tape in a locked drawer in the bedroom. No label, no case, just an old black VHS in a Ziploc bag. He almost didn't take it. Almost. But he was tired, curious, and his own VCR still worked, a relic from childhood he kept for dusty cartoons and grainy nostalgia. He put the tape in. Static, then. A room. Not his. Not the dead man's either. Just a room. Plain, off-white, one window. It looked real, but somehow wrong, like a simulation built from memory. He saw someone, a woman, pacing. Jonah leaned closer. The woman was mouthing something to herself. A name, maybe. No audio. He adjusted the tracking. Nothing. No sound ever came. He watched the woman begin to scream. Silently, her mouth tore open too wide, her body convulsed. Something in the background moved. A chair slid across the floor on its own. She ran toward the door, stopped, turned, and stared directly into the camera. The screen went black. Jonah hit rewind. But it didn't rewind, instead a new image. His apartment, the exact one he was in, his couch, his kitchen. The woman reappeared, inside his home. He paused the tape, checked behind him. Nothing. But when he turned back to the screen, she was gone. Just the empty room again, and a note on the floor. He hadn't seen it before. He hit fast forward. Each frame brought more notes, more messages scrawled across the walls of the room on screen. Get out, not yours. It sees, it follows the eye, and finally, stop watching. The tape ejected itself. Jonah left the apartment that night, slept in his car. When he returned the next day, the TV was on. No tape inside, just the woman, still staring, still silent, but now she was standing beside his body, on the floor, face down, lifeless. Third floor, last door. Inez lived alone. Top floor. No neighbors. She liked it that way. She liked her quiet, her view of the city, the silence of being unseen, until the noise started. Not loud, just scratching from inside her TV, even when it was unplugged. She called maintenance. They didn't find anything. She bought a new TV. The scratching came back, then the knock, not on her door, from inside the television. She recorded it once, played it back. That's when the footage appeared, not hers, not something she had recorded. Just a dark hallway, flickering light, one door at the end, slightly ajar. Every time she rewound the tape, the door opened a little more. The hallway began to change. Trash appeared. Wires hung loose from the ceiling. Voices whispered, but not in any language she knew. Sometimes she saw figures behind the door, still, tall, like mannequins half-dressed in shadows. She couldn't stop playing it. She forgot to eat, to sleep, to clean. The tape always started at the same point, but ended differently. Sometimes with a scream, sometimes with silence, sometimes with her name written in blood on the walls. One night the power went out. She stumbled back, heart hammering in her ribs. Something wasn't right. The air in the room had thickened, like breathing through syrup. Her limbs felt heavy, her thoughts like whispers underwater. And then the television turned back on. No button pressed, no remote in sight. Just the hallway again. But this time the door wasn't just open, it was gone, a gaping hole. And from inside it, a figure stepped out. Not walking, gliding. Its face was smooth and colorless, its body too long, as if it had been stretched through space. It moved down the hallway on screen, then turned, facing directly toward the camera, toward her. The screen went black. Then a single frame. One image. Her apartment, but empty. The chair tipped over. The front door wide open. And on the wall, scrawled in dripping strokes, "Now you see." Inez rose from the couch in a daze, turned toward her hallway. At the end was her own front door, just as the image had shown, open. A cold wind crawled in from the dark, carrying something that didn't belong, not quite sound, not quite breath, just presence. She stepped toward it, one step, then another, drawn by something ancient and patient, something that had waited a very long time. And as she reached the threshold, as her foot crossed into the nothing beyond, the TV behind her flared to life once more. Just static, and a single whisper, low and crackling beneath the white noise. "You shouldn't have looked." The whisper faded into the static, but the static didn't stop. It hissed on, soft and constant, like waves breaking against the shore of some invisible sea. Inez didn't look back. Couldn't. Her body felt wrong now, not hers entirely, not entirely human. Her skin was cold, but not from fear. It was the cold of somewhere else. Beyond the door, the world had changed. Or maybe it had always been like this, and the tape had simply peeled away the illusion. The hallway stretched on, longer than it should have, longer than the building allowed. The lights above flickered and buzzed, casting broken shadows that danced and stretched unnaturally across the floor. Something dripped. Not water, thicker, slower. The sound came from above, from inside the ceiling. Inez stepped forward. The door closed behind her on its own, a slow, groaning click. No lock, no handle. She was inside now, inside the hallway from the tape, and she was being filmed. She could feel it, a weight on her shoulders, a stare from 1,000 invisible eyes. Every time she moved, she heard the faint mechanical whir of an unseen lens adjusting. Ahead, the hallway split. Left led into darkness, right glowed faintly with a pulsing red light. She chose neither. Instead, she pressed her ear to the wall. It was warm. She could hear breathing inside it, slow, steady. Not hers, not human. From the dark corridor, a sound began to rise, like film spooling. A click, 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 rhythmic, mechanical. Something old and analog, hungry to be watched. The red glow pulsed faster now, and as she turned her gaze toward it, she realized it wasn't a light at all. It was an eye, a huge one, projected onto the wall. A film reel was playing through it, casting that same grainy, tape-worn image of her own apartment again. But this time she wasn't in it. The couch was empty, the lights were off, only the TV flickered, and in front of the TV stood a figure, back turned, motionless, watching something she couldn't see, its head tilted ever so slightly, the way a child might tilt when confused, or interested, or listening. She reached toward the wall, touched the projected image, her fingers passed through, like water. She stepped into it, and fell. Not far, just enough to land on her knees, carpet brushing her skin like the memory of fabric. She was back in her apartment, but wrong again. The lighting was dim, like dusk locked in permanent twilight. Her windows were gone, covered in black cloth nailed into the wall. The clock ticked backward, and the figure was still there, still watching. "I'm home," she whispered. The figure didn't move, but the TV did. It flared and showed a new room, a cell, with no doors. No ceiling, just a camera bolted into each corner, and a woman curled on the floor, rocking, hair tangled, eyes wide, mouthing words that had no sound. The figure in her living room turned around. It was her, but older, frail, her eyes clouded as if filmed over. Her mouth didn't move, but she heard the voice inside her own skull. "You finished the tape." "I didn't mean to." Her own voice, quiet, thin. I didn't know what it was. The older her stepped closer. The eyes didn't blink, the skin didn't flex. This wasn't a person, it was a recording, a memory made flesh. "You watched the whole thing." "No." She backed away, the floor shifted, softened, turned to magnetic tape beneath her feet, coiling and sliding, trying to drag her down into the reel. She screamed, and this time sound came out, but not hers, not hers. The scream came from every corner of the apartment, her speakers, her television, the drains. All playing it back at once, a scream caught on loop, torn from time, not carpet, film. Thin strips of it, laced with images she didn't want to see. Each frame showed her, sleeping, eating, crying, bleeding. Every moment of her life, catalogued, filed, watched. The door was gone, only a blank wall now. And on it, a new screen flickered to life. Her face, inches from the lens, staring, mouth closed, then opening and whispering, "Play it again." She screamed once more, and the room obeyed. The reel restarted, the sound of spooling filled the air, the screen went black, and from the ceiling, thin spools of tape began to drop, slowly wrapping around her limbs like veins, pulling her toward the center of the room. The light dimmed, the TV clicked off, and the recording began again. The world outside never noticed she vanished. A neighbor assumed she moved. Packages piled up, mail went stale, but no one looked. No one checked. No one knew. Until a man, a new tenant, bright-eyed and broke, moved into her place 6 months later. He found the apartment dusty, mostly clean, but the TV turned on by itself. And there was the tape, already loaded, waiting. No label, just the faint scent of vinegar, and something older, older than film, older than memory, a scent like dust that remembers. He pressed play, and on the screen, a woman screamed. The sound never stopped. The scream bled into static, not the violent kind, not loud or jarring. It was softer now, like a breath drawn too long, held, then never let go. The man stared at the screen. Something about the sound made him cold. It wasn't just fear, it was recognition. He didn't know the woman, couldn't, but he felt something pull in his chest, something tight and low, like a thread winding around his ribs. He sat down, didn't mean to, didn't remember moving. But there he was, on the couch, eyes fixed to the screen, as the static cleared and the footage resumed. The woman's apartment, if it ever was hers, looked smaller now, dimmer. The walls were too close, no windows, no doors, only the hum of the television and the heavy quiet that comes after someone stops screaming. The camera didn't move, but the angle changed, just slightly, like someone adjusting their head, not mechanically, not a pan or zoom, just human, wrongly human. From the edge of the screen, the film wavered, shivered, and then the man saw something that hadn't been there before. A mirror, just a sliver, just enough. He leaned forward, squinting. The camera didn't point at it directly, but the mirror caught just enough to reflect the setup, the screen, the couch, and the man watching. His breath caught, he raised a hand. The figure in the mirror raised a hand too, but not the same one. Left instead of right. Wrong angle. Wrong delay, wrong skin. It wasn't a reflection, it was a performance. He stood, backed away from the television. The screen dimmed. The static returned, but it pulsed now, like a heartbeat made of snow. Behind it, a shape waited. Not a face, not a body, just presence, thick, patient, like something waiting for acknowledgement. He turned off the TV. It didn't stay off. It clicked back on. Footage resumed. This time, the room was his own his posters, his shoes, his cup on the end table still half full of soda. The couch was empty. He watched the static ripple, waited for himself to enter frame. He didn't. Instead, something else walked in, low to the ground, its movement stuttering, as though caught between frames. The camera shook, just a little, then settled. The thing crawled toward the couch and sat down. It didn't look human, but it wore his hoodie, and when it looked at the screen, when it faced him, its face was nothing but a mouth, and that mouth whispered, "Keep watching." The man backed into the hallway, no shoes, no keys, he just ran. But when he opened the front door, there was no hallway, only stairs going down. They turned at sharp angles, too sharp, each flight tighter than the last, like a spiral pressed into flesh. He tried counting, lost track. They led him into a room, white, unmarked, empty except for a single TV on a cart, VHS already inserted. Paused, waiting. He turned to leave. The door was gone. The stairs vanished behind him. Only 4 walls now, and a smell in the air, burnt plastic and vinegar. Old tape, something wounded. He pressed eject. The tape didn't come out. The screen blinked, and the woman was there again. Older now, paler, eyes blackened around the rims. She sat in the same spot he had, on the same couch, and she looked at him. This time directly. No trick of angles, no camera shift, just her eyes locked to his. You watched too long," she said, the first words he'd heard spoken. She reached out through the screen, and he felt it. Not touch, not warmth, just weight, like something leaning on his thoughts. "You don't leave the tape," she said. Her voice was wrong. It echoed backward. Each syllable looped a half-second behind itself. "You become it." The screen flickered again. Now it showed him, not as he was, but sitting still, in that room, on that couch, watching, forever. He screamed, no sound. He tore at the walls. They weren't walls, they peeled away like layers of film, each sheet showing another version of the room, each version slightly worse, more cracks, less light, more stains. The last layer he peeled back showed nothing, just black, and from that black came the sound of tape threading, slow, continuous, unstoppable. The screen dimmed, and then it began again. The woman, the couch, the angle, the stare, looped. Now with him beside her, his eyes glassy, unblinking, forever watching, forever watched. Far above, in the real world, if it was the real world, another tenant moved in. The place had stayed empty a long time, too long. Keys sat waiting, furniture barely dusty. The previous occupant had left everything behind, clothes, food, half a cup of soda. Only the TV had been moved. Now it sat in the bedroom, plugged in, screen off, but warm. And in the VCR, a tape. No label. Only a faint mark where something once was. Rubbed away, unwritten, waiting. The new tenant unpacked slowly, tired. He noticed the tape, set it aside, maybe later. That night, as he drifted off to sleep, the TV turned on. No remote nearby, no timer set, just static, hissing softly. Then the screen blinked once, and a man's face appeared, tired, still. And behind him, frame by frame, something began to crawl into view. The tenant never remembered getting out of bed. But there he was, walking toward the screen, drawn forward, pulled into it, his mouth open just slightly, as if to ask something, as if to say, but the screen went black, and the tape rewound itself, slowly, clicking for the next.